Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 203. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch the podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You drop a follow over there, you'll get notified when we go live, so you join in on the fun and conversation with us. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video in MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, wherever you're listening to this, watching this, if you drop a follow or subscription, it may seem small, it does help the channel grow, so if you take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. Today, two different topics, kind of a revisit on last week for one of them, if you know, you know, and then a game review, so let's jump on into it. We're going to be talking about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League to start. Kind of review, kind of my thoughts on it so far. I'm sure if you're keeping in touch with this game at all, you can see there's a lot of negativity going about it, and like some people are really enjoying their time, which is great. It's been interesting to see everybody's reaction to this game, and I know we're all kind of anticipating it, with Rocksteady being their first title since Arkham Knight, and obviously the Arkham series being very popular. I know a lot of people were looking forward to this, to seeing what they were going to bring to the table this time. And did it deliver? I think the jury's still out on that. I mean, I know a lot of people, could just be the internet, once again, because the internet's the internet, could just be dropping a lot of hate. I will say, through my playtime, I think I've put 12 hours into it so far, streaming it and then offline. It's been a mixed bag. I know when I initially jumped into it, I thought it was very disappointing, and not in terms of a quality, just in terms of like a feel of how things were. Everything ran really smoothly, everything looks great, beautiful, cinematics are good, gameplay is great too. It's just, I think the biggest thing, and where I've kind of gotten more, not an appreciation for it, but I've enjoyed my time with it more, is this kind of seems like two sides of a coin, but it doesn't really merge well into one thing and flow well, and I don't know if that makes sense. What I'm trying to say is, in terms of the story that they are telling with the Suicide Squad and your group of four here, Harley, King Shark, Deadshot, and Captain Boomerang, with their whole mission with Argus and trying to stop the Justice League and Brainiac's whole, takeover of Metropolis, I think that those cinematics and the story that they're telling there, very, very good. I think the dynamic and synergy between the four, even though they just got together, hearing their banter back and forth is very entertaining, and it works really well, and I think the voice actors did a phenomenal job with that, as no one character really stands out to me of like, oh, this is my favorite, and the rest are kind of there. Are there ones I definitely prefer in terms of gameplay? Yeah, and we'll get into that. But in terms of like a cast, nobody feels like a side character. They all feel there, they all feel prevalent, and they each have their moments, and I really appreciate that, especially with, granted, we've had two Suicide Squad movies, and Suicide Squad's kind of become a little bit more in the forefront of mainstream media. These are still relatively new characters in compared to like Harley Quinn being on the team. Obviously she's been around in the forefront at least, or mainstream more, so you would think, oh, gravitate towards her, she's going to be more of the main character, but at least from what I've played so far, they all stand on equal ground, which I appreciate. There's still more I'd like to get backstory wise in terms of Deadshot, Boomerang, and Shark, but in terms of their role in the story, it still feels, at least right now, that they're all equal footing, which I appreciate, and was a little worried going into this title when it was announced. But those aspects are good, and then on the other side of the coin, the gameplay is really good. When you get into it and you're moving around with one of the four characters, yes, it's simple. Yes, you're shooting just these generic purple enemies over and over again, flying around the city. It's basic in those aspects, but it runs very smoothly, and every character, for the most part, feels fun to play. I alluded to it earlier. There's definitely ones I prefer. I would say Deadshot is probably my most favorite in terms of traversal and his weaponry. I think that's a good balance. Boomerang, using his boomerangs and using the Speed Force is fun. It just takes some time. Same with, I would say, Harley with the swing shot, grapple gun, whatever. With the Batman glider and the Batclaw, which we're kind of used to, obviously, with the old Arkham games. Like, those you just have to get used to. There's a timing flow to it. I mean, Deadshot has the same thing with his jetpack and his cooldown, but I feel like I have a little bit more freedom and control with his, or it's easier to pick up than the other two. King Shark is probably on the bottom of my list, not because he's bad. It's just his mobility is based on charges, so you have to hold and then hit the prompt to go forward and do a long lunge or a vertical lunge. Like, he's one I'm still learning and trying to get used to. And I would say something I really enjoy in this game, Riddler does come back. I know everybody's got a mixed bag on Riddler trophies and all that stuff. I personally love it. I think those are fun collectibles to me to find. Doing whether it's the trophies, the riddles, or in this game, which I think they pulled or did a similar thing to in Arkham Knight with the tank. I understand, another mixed bag. But the traversal stuff. They have different traversal challenges. Some, they recommend you use a certain character, and then others, they're like, nah, just go for whoever you want. I don't think you're locked in. Like, if you really wanted to use Harley for a King Shark thing, you could. It's just more like this is based on Shark's mobility, so it's probably going to be easier to do it with him. I will say those traversal challenges have helped me a lot in terms of getting used to and trying out different things with their mobility to get akin to it. And it's just a simple point-to-point race, run through the different rings or whatever. It's nothing too fancy, but I will say those have helped me in terms of an understanding with each character and get better at their traversal, I think. So in terms of the gameplay, the shooting and everything, and the different aspects and abilities the characters do have, I think that's great as well. Once again, simple in some aspects where it's like, yes, I'm just shooting generic pink jobber goons over and over again. If you can just let yourself dive into the gameplay, it's a decent fun loop. Now, this is where I'm going to start getting to the negatives, because both those aspects seem good. So you're like, Bret, shouldn't this be an amazing game? I guess it kind of should be. It just feels like there's not a lot of synergy between the two parts. And what I mean by that is it feels like there's a disconnect. At least when I was streaming, granted, I haven't done any story stuff in my own time, just because if we continue streaming, I want that to be seen. It seemed like when we were streaming, it would hit these big movie points, story points. We would get this escalation, whether it's Waller doing something going awry, going amiss, us running into the Justice League, whatever it was. It would seem we would have these story beats. It would build up this tension, build up this excitement. And then we would just cut back to gameplay. Not cut, but we would go back after that gameplay moment, or the story moment, rather. And the gameplay aspect was generic filler-esque mission. Like, go here, defend a point for a while. Go here and save some civilians. Like, it didn't connect with where the story beat had left off. So it feels like we jump into story point, and then we jump into these non-important missions. Now, will they pay off in the end in terms of loot and gear and resources? Yes. But in terms of the story, these missions don't really seem to add to it. It kind of adds to the extra gameplay that players are diving into, whether it's your contracts, which once again, you do those, you get different resources for the support squad back at the Hall of Justice, and like your loot that you can upgrade. You can get better gear and guns if you help out Flag and Penguin. You can get different, like, what are they called? There's like different elemental effects that you can get on your enemies, and upgrade those if you help out Ivy. There's other support squad I haven't run into just yet, so I'm not sure how they'll factor into and what they will help the player, like what they will improve on their behalf. But jumping from those 2 points, it felt very disconnected, and I think that's where my disappointment came in, is like, I don't know if it's just a series of expectations where, like, oh, obviously the Arkham games were great, and granted that was a little different where it did have the open world, but it still felt more important with everything you were doing. I would kind of relate this to a Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights had a high expectation, high bar set for it too, because it was, I think it was the Arkham Origins dev, which I'm sorry, I do not recall. I know it wasn't Rocksteady. But that at times also felt a little disjointed. Now, granted, it's been a little while since I played Gotham Knights, so my memory on it's a little hazy. From what I can tell with Knights, or what I recall with Knights, at least their side quests, some of them felt akin to, or a callback to the Arkham games, where in those, every side quest, even if it didn't build up to your main story, it was elements of a different villain that you were kind of like going on this other story path with. Some varied in lengths, like, Deacon Blackfire was very short. You had, across all 3 of them, you had Mr. Pig was a little bit shorter. You had Mr. Freeze's, which felt like a whole thing. I don't know. Sorry. So, at least when it branched out to this more open world from Arkham Asylum, where it was more contained, you're on the island, and everything there built into the finale of that game. There weren't any side quests unless you count the Riddler trophies, which fair. Then you got to City and Night, where you had your mainline story branch. So City, you're figuring out, what's going on with Hugo Strange, is that his name? Yeah. His whole arc, and there's that path with Joker as well, right? But then you have the branches off of Zsasz doing the phone calls, and Bane with his canisters, and Catwoman stuff. Like, you could go do those, but those had a narrative to them. Same with Night. You have, obviously, the Scarecrow and the Arkham Knight mainline, but then you can go help out Nightwing with Penguin stuff. Or you had, like I talked about earlier, the Pig stuff and Deacon Blackfire and other things you could do, but those felt like they had a stronger foot in terms of, like, I'm dealing with a supervillain. With the what we're doing in Suicide Squad, it just is generic beat up these goons. Not beat up, but shoot these goons. There's no substance behind it. The support squad, I would feel, is similar to what I was talking about with the old games, but those initial missions of reaching them, like finding Penguin and finding Ivy, they're short, quick, to the point. Like, oh, go here, we're going to find, or we've heard rumors about X person here. You're going to go get them, blah. And it's part of the main storyline. They're just not there. It's not all that big of a thing. And I guess slight spoiler here, because I don't know if he was in the trailers or anything like that, but I just wrapped up something with Lex Luthor. Luthor seemed like something like, oh, we're going to dive into it, and then he just kind of poofs, like it's done. That's where it's a little bit like, I don't know. It doesn't have these side quests of substance. It's just when you have these moment-to-moment, these in-betweens, the story point, it's just filler. Or it feels like filler, or it feels like generic shoot-'em-up multiplayer stuff. So I think that's where the disconnect comes from me. So I'm really enjoying this game now. Once again, I've been playing it more off-stream, so maybe it's also just like, this doesn't feel like a stream game because there's the breaks in between of like things happening. I don't know if it's that. But diving into it, like I said, those two sides of the coin feel really good. It just doesn't merge well into one game. Sounds weird. The synergy's not there. I guess. I don't know how to say this. Both aspects are good, but for some reason it feels off when you put them together. Now, granted, I haven't dived or delved into the multiplayer at all. I've been playing this completely single player. Just with the narrative, I felt like that was the better choice. So in terms of a multiplayer, I can't speak on like how it runs online, how it feels when you're all going around. I will say I do appreciate from the single player perspective seeing the other Suicide Squad members jumping around, diving, helping out, doing all the call outs, like I said, their banter along the way. I do really appreciate that. In terms of world building and compared to the original Arkham games, I think it's here. There's some really cool stuff. Like, I think the Batman experience, even if it was just a retelling of the first 3 games, minus Origins, I think that was really cool. That it was cute with the whole museum aesthetic. There's that you can dive into, and there's a few other buildings like the Hall of Justice. Daily Planet didn't really have it, but there's a few you can dive in, really see the lore and kind of the world building there. And obviously, if you're a DC fan, you get to eat all that up. In terms of like the Riddler stuff, the rewards are there, like the interview tapes and the concept and stuff like that, but I think because it's a multiplayer game, when you get it, it doesn't just pop up in your face. They're all in the menus, and you have to kind of go find them. And I don't know, I haven't personally gone and listened to those. I don't know how that will add to the world, if it will feel the same as like how the Riddler stuff, the profiles, the interview tapes, how those felt in the Arkham style games, where I was like, oh, this person's really cool, and then you obviously see them later on in the series. If we're going to talk about like Asylum to then City to then Night, it felt cool to be on that journey and like learn more about Batman's world. I haven't felt that in Suicide Squad, and I was kind of hoping for it to get more of a connection with these characters. Granted, like I said, it could just be the multiplayer aspect. Obviously, you don't want player 1 getting something, all of a sudden it stops, and then player 1's just kind of chilling over there while the other 3 are swinging around or in chaos mode. It would interrupt the flow there, so I get that. So maybe if you just dive into it separately, or I dive into it separately, I'll get that rush or that feel of like, yep, I'm learning something here, I'm getting more in depth or a stronger connection with these characters. We'll have to see. I'll have to check that out. This game's, games of service-esque, so there's the whole store thing, buy emotes if you want, and costumes and whatnot. There's going to be Battle Pass. I don't know if it's going to be like a Fortnite Battle Pass where you pay the $10 and then you get the content there, and then each new Battle Pass, same thing. I don't know if that's how it's going to run. It seems like it is, just seeing now that there's a storefront with real world, money you can use. That's a little disappointing. I didn't expect the store element, but granted, I've been interested in this game, but I haven't delved super deep dive into like everything they announced. This could have been something they're expecting. But it is what it is. If you want to dive into it, great. If you don't, no problem. You don't have to either. One thing I say that I will appreciate is you don't have to make this game your life. The first Battle Pass, Season Pass, whatever the fuck, Battle Pass, not Season Pass, sorry, whatever is coming out is not out yet. When it does come out, if you have been excited for this game or looking forward to this game, but then hearing all this chatter online, you're like, I don't know if I should get it right now. It's a $80 game, it's a steep price point, and to just have it, if you wanted to wait later where it's on sale, all of this Battle Pass stuff or content you can unlock, I guess is similar to a Halo Infinite. It's going to be there in perpetuity, so you can always jump back to Season 1's Battle Pass, whatever they're going to call it, jump back into that, get that stuff for yourself. It's not something you have to be here right now to get, similar to other games. So I do appreciate that content will still be there for players to unlock, get however it needs to be gotten. That's something, obviously, with the first pack not being out yet. I thought with the official launch on Friday, as of recording, maybe the first one would be out. I don't know their timetable. I wasn't sure if it was just because it was pre-order that it wasn't there. or pre-launch. But I don't know how leveling up in the Battle Pass is going to work. Your characters each have a level. You can get to a maximum level of 30, it looks like. And it's, relative here and there of how you get XP or how fast you gain XP. I think my highest level character is level 10. So over, 12 hours of play, I think I've played him 4 something. Last I looked at the stats, so, not awful leveling up wise. But I'm not sure how that will equate to like how you progress through the Battle Pass. If the contracts will have more weight towards those of like the challenges, like kill brutes with this weapons or do so many afflictions of the status thing or whatever it is. We'll have to see how that plays out and how the leveling up process goes. I guess it doesn't really matter in terms of like a crunch, like a Fortnite, like an Apex, like anything else of the Battle Pass. So like, oh my god, I gotta reach level 100 by this 3-month time. I guess it won't really matter or feel like a time crunch if that content is there, just there and doesn't go away. It's not going to feel like, oh my god, I need to play this all the time. You can play it at your leisure. You don't have to worry about where your level's at in terms of the Battle Pass and crunch or whatever. So yeah, all in all, I do really enjoy this game. I think it's just, it for some reason doesn't feel like it has that synergy that it should. And I think that's where a lot of people are kind of falling off and not liking it. And granted, it could be an expectation. We set the bar too high for ourselves. And I'm guilty of that too. Just being like, no, this isn't what I wanted. Similar to a Gotham Knights. But then again, I really loved Gotham Knights once I delved into it and spent the time there. I think just face value, maybe it just didn't hit where we were expecting it to. And that's mixed bag of fair, unfair. But yeah, I really enjoy both aspects of it. So I fully plan on continue playing it, and maybe even going for the platinum. I'm enjoying my time with it. Like I said, story's fantastic from what I've played and seen. The gameplay runs smooth and is a good time as well. It's just those connecting points where it's like, this is a weird ebb and flow. Would I recommend it? Yeah, maybe wait a little bit, if it's been kind of iffy on your radar. If you're into the DC universe, definitely dive into it. I think the content's there. Metropolis looks great. And it seems like we have some fun characters coming up and ahead of us, which I believe is also free content, which I think the characters are free. I don't know if the Battle Pass is free. I guess that's something we'll have to watch out for as well. Yeah. But Joker from Elseworlds is our first one there. We'll have to see also how the post-game content works out, like how fun the Elseworlds thing is, how fun that gameplay loop is after the story is done. Me just swinging around off-stream, just doing it, I've hit a point where, like, I can't do anymore. I've completed all I can right now, other than just generic shooting people and defeating enemies in the city. But once you finish the story, I wonder we'll have to see how plentiful that content is of, like, is there enough? Is it fun enough to continue and keep you spending your time in that game? We'll have to see. Will the new characters be interesting enough? Who are the new characters besides Joker that will be added? Will they have story elements to them? We'll have to see. A lot of ifs, but yeah, Suicide Squad. All right, moving on to topic 2. So kind of a little bit of a revisit, not really of a continuation of last week's episode. So we talked about wrestling last week. We talked about the Royal Rumble. We talked about, like, where are the stories that we tried to guess WrestleMania 40 based on the stories they were telling us, or that we could kind of glean from Royal Rumble and other shows. Well, boy howdy, how much can change in a week? Man, that video is really outdated already. CM Punk versus Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title. Cody Rhodes going to finish his story against Roman Reigns. Bruh. Okay, injuries happen. You can't really blame anybody for that. But talk about poor timing. Talk about poor timing for poor Cody. Yeah, we've kind of been on this weird spell since Friday Night SmackDown of Everything's going topsy-turvy. We thought things were great. We thought, Seth had a great promo trying to convince Cody to come for the world title because that's the work rate championship, the workhorse championship. It's the one his dad would want to win. Great promo, build that up. And then Friday happens, and Cody's going to talk to Roman and blah, blah, blah. He's going to make a decision. Comes out, Roman absolutely shits on Seth in that title. I get it. You're supposed to kind of return serve, but maybe not bury it that much. I don't know. Cody comes out and he's like, hey, I am going to go for your title, but I'm not going to go at your title for WrestleMania. I want to take everything away from you. And some counsel talk to somebody, blah, blah, blah. And then the fucking Rock comes out. And this was our fear leading into the Rumble of Rock was going to change everything. And it seems like that's the case. Talk about poor timing. Now, I'll say this. Is Rock Roman going to be very cool moment-wise and, stuff like that? Yes, you get the whole generational fight. You get this family fight. Awesome. That's going to be great. It just sucks on timing. Now, timing is everything here. I'm going to keep saying timing. I'm so sorry if you're sick of that word already. I get why they're pulling the trigger now on Rock and Roman. It's just very disappointing, and you can see that through the YouTube likes on the video with Rock coming out. Apparently it's their most disliked video, and you can see it on every other wrestling media, well, most of them, forms of content. Like, people are pissed, and rightly so. Everybody's entitled to their opinion on this. Not trying to dissuade everybody or anyone on how they feel, because I'm disappointed as well. The timing works out here, and I get why they're pulling the trigger. Rock, obviously, Hollywood actor. He's very busy with his movies and stuff like that. If he has the time to do it now, pull the trigger and do it. It's just very unfortunate because of the timing of Cody needs to finish this story. He should be the one to take the title from Roman. He should be the one getting the rub from this, getting the lift off of Roman. Great. That should be the route we're taking. But instead, we're going this route of Rock's doing it. Now, do I think The Rock's going to win? In my heart of hearts, I'm going to say no, because I'm trying to somehow pull some logic out of this decision. Money, monetarily wise, moment wise, yes, I get it. Check the box, whatever. I want some logic here, because obviously Rock's not around all the time. So I don't want him winning the title. One, title won't be there. Not that it's been all that often with Roman, but at least it's been better than I feel Rocky would be. I don't think Rock can win. I don't want Rock to win the title here, because he's not around. I also don't want that because he doesn't need that. He does not need that moment of beating Roman, who's been champ for 3 fucking years? I don't know. A long time. He doesn't need that boost. Give that to someone else. Debatable if Cody even needs that boost, but he doesn't need that. Now, also, okay, Roman retains. We can go to beat the Hogan thing. You can go and beat the Hogan record. Now, I don't really care so much if he holds on to it, because I'd rather have him hold on to it than Dwayne. I'm hoping that's how it happens. It's a little awkward that Rock is now on the chair or on the board of not board of directors. He's in the meeting room. He's up top, like he just got joined TKO up there. So that's a little awkward. I'm hearing a lot of rumors flying around now. Roman controls creative, which I don't know how much weight to put into that, but that's like, if so, really? Why are you being a butt? I don't think that's the case. It's just icky to see and read. Hopefully it's not the case. Who knows? I'm not working there. And yeah, for Cody, it just sucks because we've been building this up for 2 years now. He's had very strong promos about like how he wants to finish this for his dad. The titles his dad never got. You had the whole Rumble moment where obviously he's won it again, and he does the point at Roman after the sign, and Roman's like, "Ooh, you want some with it?" Like, is this just one big audible because Punk ripped his tricep? How? It can't just be because Punk. Raw, as we talked about last week with the Royal Rumble, Raw had a lot of strong contenders in that Rumble. You even saw it with the final 5 or 6 participants, all from Monday Night Raw. Cody, Punk, Drew, Sammy, Jey Uso, Gunther. All strong contenders. All people you could easily fill into a slot in a storyline with Seth to have them go after the world title. Obviously, the initial thing was Punk. That was the initial plan. Makes sense. Punk returns, gets his Mania moment. Does he win? I don't know. That's up for debate. Whatever. Cody, backup plan. I get it. We're not happy about it right now, but obviously, status-wise, he could have easily fit in that slot, and it seems like he's fitting in that slot. Let's talk about the other 4, though. Okay? Drew has a legitimate beef and has been telling his story this whole time since he's done this semi-quasi-heel turn. I'm right, I'm in the right here, but I'm kind of going about it the wrong way. Perfect sense, okay? Sami Zayn, he's made strong plays for that title, saying, like, he needs that title. Sami and Seth would have a great match. I mean, all 6 of these guys with Seth would have a great match, no doubt. Like, Sammy's somebody we've wanted to have a world title for ages. We saw it last year with Roman in the Elimination Chamber. Montreal was way behind him. Granted, you also have, home crowd there, but Sammy could make a strong play for it. Who are my other 2? Jay, Main Event Jey Uso. His name is Main Event Jey Uso. I know we want to do the brother stuff. We didn't really do it at the Rumble, so I don't know how much legitimacy we're going to get to the WrestleMania thing, even though I predicted it last week. You could pivot him. You just got to build him up. Do the underdog thing. Nobody expects him to win the world title because he's a tag guy. Similar to how you built him up, leaving SmackDown, joining Raw. I know he's been in a little bit of a hoo-ha, lately of, momentum, but you could build him up given the time. And Gunther's just a fucking beast. Gunther's been crushing it with the IC title. You could run back the Warrior thing, do a double title. You could, so many things you could do with Gunther, And then you have another player on top of this. Damian Priest. Perfect opportunity. Now he's got the money in the bank. He doesn't need a match, but that's someone else you could fit into this slot. We've been doing stuff with Damian, but his momentum obviously has been up, down, left, right, center because all of these other players coming in here. Rock, Punk, Cody, all these other, elements. You could easily put him in there too, or shake things up of play the Seth's hurt role, or, get, you didn't want, you go emergency plan, break glass, Drew goes against Seth. You do another Mania cash-in where Priest is there. That just elevates Drew even more in this pissed-off story. Seth can go take his time off. Damian gets his moment. Drew elevates his heel persona and gets even more frustrated, and you can continue building on what he's already done. Then maybe Drew takes out Damian, and then Punk comes back, and we already built the little thing of Drew, I was the one who ripped the tricep. Right, Moose? Okay, now you're quiet. Oh, there you go. So, it's just, I don't know why they pivoted Cody specifically, and I guess I do know. I'm just hoping it wasn't the higher-ups being like, I'm Dwayne, I'm here in charge, get me in this thing. I'm hoping it was just the timing worked out with the whole, we can finally do this family versus family thing with the Hollywood thing. It just is disappointing in terms of timing. It's going to be a great moment. It's going to be cool to look back in the years. Just living in it right now, very unfortunate. Sucks a lot. And I can't imagine how Cody's feeling. I don't know what the embrace was about. I don't know what Rock said to Cody. Things could change too. We saw how fast things changed in a week. Maybe they turn it around again. Who fucking knows? What's going on in Elimination Chamber? With the current plan, do we even need an Elimination Chamber? I'm sure you're going to do one for Rhea and the ladies, but do you do a men's one? You shouldn't have to, because Cody's got his Rumble win and he goes for Seth, unless you're going to make that a triple threat and do another contender. You don't, what happens there? That takes a whole chamber match away. So, there's a lot up in the air. There's more. I feel like there's almost even more worry, disconnect post-Rumble than pre-Rumble. I thought, pre-Rumble we're all freaking out with all these factors, and then Rumble is gonna be smooth sailing. Nope. No, we're just gonna throw all these things into it, and it's gonna be a whole slew of madness. And I mean, I guess that's good. You don't want things to be predictable, but also you want to reward the people who have been doing well on your behalf, and this feels like not doing that. I'm not saying you have to do everything in terms of like good favor, I guess, but you've seen how Cody's built himself. You see how he's connecting with the fan base, or has connected with the fan base. He's doing these big moves outside of the company, and to just then go, nah, sucks. So, I don't know. Just my quick little rant on that. And yeah, oh boy. So that Mania predictions video, we already got 2 matches. Totally wrong. We'll have to see how the rest go. I don't have high hopes for my predictability rate or prediction rate. But yeah. But everybody, this has been another episode of The Wait Where We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, a.k.a. Enigma9011. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me today for the fun and conversation. If you guys ever want to catch it live, you can go over to twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You can drop a follow over there. You get notified when we go live, so you join on the fun and chaos. But if you can't catch live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video in MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, wherever you're watching and listening to this, if you drop a follow or subscription, it may seem small, it does help the channel grow though, so if you take the time to do that, we love and appreciate you for it. Thanks for hanging out today, guys. Giving this a watch, giving it a listen. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.